Hi, good evening and welcome to Sports Scene. We had another big week of sporting news. Now I have with me here in the studio, Road to Port Moresby's Lorraine Genia and Sports Scene's roving reporter, Jeremy Morgie. Good evening, guys.
Good evening, Dion.
Good evening, thanks for having us.
No worries. Jeremy, tell us a bit about yourself. Where have you been?
Oh, well, I've actually spent a lot of time on the sidelines reporting one of my favorite sports, football, of course. Covering a lot of the games for the Telikom National Soccer League, which hit around 8 over the weekend. So it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good, the games I've seen so far.
And Lorraine, Road to Port Moresby. Tell us a bit about the preparation for the Pacific Games.
Yeah, well, it's no secret that a lot of people have voiced their concerns on the completion of venues. As we've reported in the past 2 weeks, actually. A lot of people have come out on social media voicing their concerns. Now, most recently, there was, concerns raised whether or not the games would be deferred till December.
Now, this was done on social media, was it?
Yes, it was, and it came as a shock to many people, especially us in the media, because we've been reporting consecutively that the games will go ahead as planned. But as reported last week in the news, we did receive confirmation from both offices that the games would go ahead as planned for the 4th of July.
So we're still looking at that major event in 4.5 months' time?
Yes, definitely. Sports Minister Justin Chichenko released a statement last week. He was baffled with these claims and he said they were absurd. He's choosing to focus on the games, and Prime Minister Peter O'Neill said earlier in the year as well, we should actually start coming together and supporting each other rather than tearing each other down, because, us as citizens of Papua New Guinea, we are stakeholders, and if the games go wrong, it's a poor reflection on us as well. So why not work together?
It's part of nation building as well.
Exactly, to achieve something that, will go a long way in Papua New Guinea's history.
Exciting times for PNG sport.
Yeah, definitely, and there are a lot of things happening in the lead up to the 2015 Pacific Games, the 2014 SP Sports Awards.
Yeah. Yep, the SP Sports Awards is gearing up for another successful staging with finalists already being selected. The finalists of each category were announced last week by the selection panel chairman, Moses Query, in preparation for the event. So guys, what are your views on the finalists for the SP Sports Awards?
Well, I have here in front of me the categories. And just by looking at some of the names, like, say, for example, Junior Female Athlete of the Year, you've got B. Ovia, Rosemary Tona, and Savannah Chichenko, daughter of the sports minister himself. For the junior male, you have Fred Oala weightlifting. Now, I think he got nominated last year as well.
Last year. He won last year as well?
He did win last year. We were there.
Yes, we covered it live. Exciting times.
Also in athletics, another exciting prospect, his name's Kaminiel Matlaun, and Matthew Stubbins for tennis. So there's a couple.
Matthew Stubbins is also quite a young athlete as well. I think he'd be in the same league as Savannah. They all went to school at the Elamari International School. Now, Savannah, very impressive. I'm not sure if any of you have seen her perform. I haven't seen her perform, but I've heard of her, her swim meets down in Australia. And she's definitely, a good advocate for young and developing athletes here in Papua New Guinea.
Good. And to the sportswoman category, Sportswoman of the Year, who are our finalists?
Oh, well, you've got Abigail Terra Pisa, you have Dika Toa, and Toya Whistle. 3
very strong contenders.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as we spoke about Abigail previously, she is quite a strong contender because out of the 3 of them, she is the youngest. Now, she's just graduated from the US.
Yes, she has.
She's worked very hard to get to where she is at the moment. But then you have Toya Whistle. Now, we featured her story on Road to Port Moresby as well. And as she put it, she grew up from the grassroots, and she's worked really hard to get to where she is, especially going from, living in rural areas of Papua New Guinea and now being based in Australia. It's a totally different lifestyle. But then you have Dikatoa, who spent 2 to 3 years away from her children, and you know, she's a phenomenal woman, very inspiring, because she, you know, balancing your professional sporting career with your personal life, being a mother as well. You know, I'm not a mother, but I can only imagine just how challenging that would be. So those three deserve to be there, and I think it would be quite a challenge for the SB Sports Awards panelists.
It'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Definitely.
And to the Sportsman of the Year, who do we have, Jeremy?
Well, no surprises in one of those names. There's Stephen Curry.
Our golden boy from the Glasgow Commonwealth Games.
Yes, so he's probably the strongest contender. But then alongside him is Legasiaka, the
cricket.
PNG Barramundis player who recently represented the PM's 11 down in Australia.
They've been in top form, the Barramundis.
They have been in top form. In fact, you know, I can remember one of the first stories I ever did with EMTV Sports was reporting that they had cracked the one-day international, the top 6. So, the Barramundis are perhaps one of the best sporting teams that Papua New Guinea has ever produced.
But then you have the SB Hunters, and Israel Eliab is also
Captain.
a nominee.
Yes, you do have
but
Israel.
He is no stranger to the SB Sports Awards.
No, he's not. In fact, Israel Eliab, well, one of the things you must realize is it's been a long time since a rugby league player has been nominated as an individual for an SB Sport Award. So it makes it a very special moment for each of the three men that have been nominated here.
Awesome.
Now, just making it personal, who do you think will win that award? Personally, I would go for Legasiaka because, you know, cricket, PNG, they've come a long way. And not just that, Legasiaka has done his country proud. And he, as an individual, he has come a long way. As you mentioned, he represented the PM's side in Australia. So that would be quite interesting.
But I still
It'll
think
be a good toss between the three of them.
Yeah. What about Team of the Year?
Well, for Team of the Year, I do have the Hebel Barramundis.
No surprise there.
Yes, so I think they're now.
We do have the SB Hunters as well.
Yes, we do have the SB Hunters and the MVIL Mosquitoes in AFL who took out the International Cup last year.
They did extremely well.
Wonderful achievement for the team. You know, this is it gives a lot of credit to Rex Lecker and the guys over at AFL PNG.
I wouldn't want to be selecting. It's gonna
No, definitely not. But, you know, if we're going to give credit to the MVIL Mosquitoes, why not give credit to the SB Hunters where it's due?
Definitely.
You know, last year was their first year.
Debut
It was, their debut, their inaugural year in the Intrust Super Cup. And while they did not get the results they wanted, they performed exceptionally well. And as I mentioned, being their first time to compete at that level of competition, and the management behind it, the whole organization of the team, you know, they definitely stand out when you speak about team sports in Papua New Guinea.
Definitely do. Okay, guys. Well, after the break, the preseason of the PRL Rugby Nines. Welcome back to the show. Port Moresby Rugby League Nines are in their preseason finals this weekend at the Maribarex Oval.
Yeah, the normal rounds ended, and the teams will be entering into the knockouts.
And the grand final will be held this Sunday.
Yep, that will be followed by the medal presentation. And Elijah Labette has this story.
It was all serious business in the women's matches yesterday. All teams gave their best, vying for the last spot in the grand final playoff against the Storms. Flyers proved too strong in the cup and played playoffs, coming out victorious 12 points to 4 over Connie Tigers. In the second playoff, it was a tough match between the Royals and Defence as Royals urged a minor victory over Defence 4 points to 0. Butterflies will be taking on Royals for the cup. New team goalie Snipers had a tough encounter with Tarangao, going down 4 points to 0. Tarangao have now secured the spot, playing Connie Tigers in the grand final for the bowl. In the men's division, players showed defensive footwork in the windy weather, Teams in the Cup and Plate playoff were all out in form, strutting out their skills to make the finals. This weekend's finals have been postponed to a later date due to the rainy weather conditions in Port Moresby.
With 32 teams in the competition, the Hohola Off-Season League is now one of the few rugby league competitions in Port Moresby that is constantly involving local homegrown talent. Shane Soria has more.
There are two divisions in the Hohola Off-Season League, the A-grade division, which comprises of more senior players, and the B-grade division. With 17 rounds in this season's competition, this level of football is just getting better. All the teams in the competition contest week in, week out, with little to spare, but adrenaline-pumping, heart-raising style of football. This weekend, the Hohola 2 Dumpers took on the informed freeweight bumpers in a brilliant game of football. The freeway boys proved their dominance, outmuscling the Hohola 2 outfit in a 8-point victory in the league's opener. The Tokarara Dragons took on a Mats Fancy outfit, Texas Malona. The game was rather discouraging for the Dragons fans, with the Texas boys crossing over the line twice at ease to seal the game in 10 points win over the Dragons. The games continue with teams rub shoulders on the turf, proven to be a thriller for the rugby league fanatics around the nation's capital.
Now to the NSL. Jeremy, how was the NSL this weekend?
The NSL, as I said earlier in the show, was absolutely fantastic. And we'll start off with Ley Admiralty. Had their first win in 7 matches when they defeated a young Bester side over at the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium. However, down here in Port Moresby, there was, of course, the double header.
I heard there was Hekari had a big win.
It was a huge win for Hekari. 6 goals, 2 by Tommy Sammy. He scored early in the match and then scored one of the last goals late in the second half. But probably the best one was by Joachim Roy. He curled it from outside the 18 yards box.
6 goals. That's a big score. But just on that note of speaking about Hekari, I mean, they are the best in PNG, but it seems that their performance has dropped this year compared to last year's season.
For a start, Hekari has had a number of changes. The team is also in transition, and they are battling on 2 fronts. You've got them here in the domestic competition, but then they're also gearing up for the Oceania Champions League, which will be held in April from the 11th to, I think, the 26th.
In Fiji, is it?
In Fiji,
and
it
you'll
is.
be going?
Well, hopefully. But you see, last year, Hekari were based over at the IPA grounds in Waigani, which was a bigger field. Conditions that they feel is far better suited to their style of play. The CIS college is smaller. It does restrict in what they really would like to do. But in terms of whether their forms drop, yes, we could say that is one thing, but then we also have to look at the other teams in the NSL. They're improving as well. Like, say, for example, Ley City Dwellers. At one stage, even Oro FC lost by only 1 goal to Hekari. So it's really a two-way thing between the clubs.
Now, what about Medang FC? Now, they do have Alwyn Komolong come back from the US, is it? And that, even though he's just one player, he surely has helped the team's performance so far.
Alwyn Komolong is honestly one of the best young talents that the country has. There's no doubt about it. Moving on, perhaps the biggest game of the weekend was between FC Port Moresby and Ley City Dwellers. Both teams were very informed coming in, both coming off big wins from round 7. And when I had a chat with Scholar Sengi, who was also at the game, I told her this is going to be the game to watch, and it was. FC Port Moresby scored 2 goals early. Basil Jafari opened the scoring, and he's also been named in the under 23 squad as well.
That's right.
But then towards the last 10 minutes or so of the match, FC Port Moresby were placed under a huge amount of pressure. In fact, when I was speaking to Raymond Gunemba, captain for Lake City Dwellers, he made mention that they have a certain style. They're very aggressive in how they perform.
Obviously having Port Moresby go up against Ley, and you said they did come off 2 massive wins the weekend before. In your opinion, who do you think deserved to win?
FC Port Moresby.
Definitely.
Why do you say that?
Based on the fact that they had chances, they took their chances, and they scored. At the end of the day, you have to score. What is the whole point of playing if you're not going to you're not going to win? It now is about winning. Lake City Dwellers had a lot of chances as well, but because they didn't score, and FC Port Moresby did.
So a lot of missed chances then.
There were a lot.
We also have informed goalkeeper for FC Port Moresby, Charles Lepani.
Yeah, Charles Lepani. He's been named alongside Ishmael Pole, goalkeeper for Hekari.
They'll both be vying for a spot in the
they'll be
under 23.
fighting for a spot with the under 23 squad alongside Ronald Warisa, 3 very, very talented.
Charles has been quite outstanding all season. Right from the start, he has won, man of the match quite a few times.
Yes, he's
3 times, 2 times in a
and
row.
for a
I think
goalie
it
to do
was.
that, that's
Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
impressive.
Well, one of the things that I've found really impressive about young Charles Lepani is the fact that he is courageous. In fact, I think it was Nigel Dabinyama that took an absolute bolter, and Charles just faced it and took it on. So, full credit to him.
He is a courageous player, definitely. Now, just going back to the Hekari boys, do they still have the Fijian-based boys in the team?
They have a number of Pacific Island players that are still in the
Now,
team.
do you think that is a slight advantage for them, but disadvantage for the other teams having, the overseas-based players come be a part of the team? And how does that work with the NSL?
Well, here's an interesting stat for you. I actually had an interview with my own father, John, and we spoke about it. And
now, John's obviously been a part of the soccer fraternity for a very long time.
Yes. He forced me to play once in a while. But we spoke about how international talent is being brought here into the country. Not just in terms of the coaching roles that they have, but also the players. And I asked him, I said, do we need overseas-based players? He said Papua New Guineans are as good as anyone else in the Pacific. But
now, I also think it's good to have overseas-based players come in as well, because if you just had, the Papua New Guinean soccer players play against each other, we wouldn't be, exposed to that level of competition. And it's a good, definitely, it's a good mix.
Well, one of the problems earlier on in the NSL was the familiarity that players had.
Yep.
Every player knew each other.
Yeah. There's an element of surprise in.
Yes, when you bring in the so-called X factor, like it's what made Tutezama Tanito, the left winger for Hekari, so hard to handle when he first arrived.
Sorry to interrupt, but in saying so, that's where my question comes in. Are there restrictions, within the NSL alone? Because Hekari is the only team that has international or overseas-based players.
Oh, well,
is it because that they can afford it? They have the funding.
They can afford it. They can. It does come back to.
So it's open to any players to bring in.
It is open. Like say for example, FC Port Moresby, they've got Aaron Sexton, who's
that's right.
Who's an English.
Yep.
An English player. Very good, very skilled in small spaces. I haven't seen him feature a lot, but there's nothing stopping clubs from bringing in overseas-based players, but it does come back to funding. Some of these clubs are privately funded.
That's right.
Yep.
And it does cost. It does cost money. And Hekari have an advantage. They've been to the O League. They've represented the Oceania region, and they've been able to take something from the World Club Championships from a couple of years back.
After the break, Lorraine brings us more from the Boxers in Brisbane. Welcome back to the show. Now, Lorraine, you were ringside with the team PNG Boxing Team who were in Brisbane.
Yes, I was at the Brisbane Boxing Club on Saturday night. I caught up with Rafaela Kaure and the other boxers. Now, the team has actually shown a lot of improvements, from their performance at the National Boxing Championships in Goroka. I was there at the NSI.
That's right, you were.
They've been training under the expertise of Australian-based coach Alan Nicholson. And speaking to Rafaela as well, she mentioned that the team has she confirmed that the team has improved immensely. They've been pushed to the limit. They train 3 times a day, and that's, with boxing, it's difficult. It definitely takes it all out on you. You get exhausted. And
you mentioned Rafaela. Now she's also got. Has she cut down her weight to?
That's right.
The 60 kg.
60 kg.
Well, she said she was struggling, but she's on track with everything, and so are the rest of the boxers. Now, I managed to get some shots of her younger sister Debbie Kaure's fight against a Queensland opponent. Now, Debbie fights in the 75 kilogram division. Her opponent was in the 80 kilogram. Category. So it was quite difficult for her. Speaking to Alan Nicholson, what he was saying was that he's training the team because he understands that they don't have that exposure and experience at that level of competition, but he is training the team in a way where he expects them to peak in July for the Pacific Games.
One of the things that I found most interesting, I watched PNG take on Australia last year at the Lamana Fight Nights. Our technique was different then. And when you went to Goroka, they were training under the local coaches, now overseas. Did you see a change in their fighting style, anything like that?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, Debbie Kaure, I only managed to stick around for Debbie's match and Tom Bogger's match. And you see, in these highlights that their technique is totally different. As I mentioned, watching them fight at the NSI, at the National Boxing Championships, to now, they match the level of competition that their Queensland-based opponents brought to them, and Debbie, utilized the ring, and it's a different technique. Boxing, as she mentioned, it's not just about wanting to knock out your opponent. It's about you have to be mentally fit as well as physically fit.
So Lorraine, the boxers, are they expected back soon?
Yes, just speaking to them, over the weekend, actually, they have been there for 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks remaining because initially they were supposed to be there for a month, but they did mention that they are planning on extending their stay overseas for another month. But again, that all depends on the PNG Olympic Committee. So we'll have a follow-up on that, and we'll have to receive confirmation from the PNG Olympic Committee.
That's all we have for you on tonight's episode of Sports Scene. Thank you very much, Lorraine and Jeremy.
Thank you, Dion.
Thanks, Dion. Thanks for having us.
For more updates, go on to the MTV Online, go on Facebook. We also have the MTV app, which you can download off Play Store. Follow Scholar every Thursday nights on Hotspot. And for all the information and the latest updates on the Pacific Games, tune in on Wednesday evenings and join Lorraine on Road to Port Moresby 2015. That's it from us here on Sports Scene. Have a pleasant evening. Good night. Welcome back to the show. Now, Lorraine, you were ringside with the team PNG Boxing Team who were in Brisbane.
Yes, I was at the Brisbane Boxing Club on Saturday night. I caught up with Rafaela Kaure and the other boxers. Now, the team has actually shown a lot of improvements, from their performance at the National Boxing Championships in Goroka. I was there at the NSI.
That's right, you were.
You know, they've been training under the expertise of Australian-based coach Alan Nicholson. And speaking to Rafaela as well, she mentioned that the team has actually, well, she confirmed that the team has improved immensely. They've been pushed to the limit. They train 3 times a day, and that's, you know, with boxing, it's difficult. It definitely takes it all out on you. You get exhausted. And
you mentioned Rafaela. Now she's also got. Has she cut down her weight to?
That's right.
The 60 kg.
60 kg.
Well, she said she was struggling, but she's on track with everything, and so are the rest of the boxers. Now, I managed to get some shots of her younger sister Debbie Cowra's fight against a Queensland opponent. Now, Debbie fights in the 75 kilogram division. Her opponent was in the 80 kilogram. You know, category. So it was quite difficult for her. Speaking to Alan Nicholson, what he was saying was that he's training the team because he understands that they don't have that exposure and experience at that level of competition, but he is training the team in a way where he expects them to peak in July for the Pacific Games.
One of the things that I found most interesting, you know, I watched PNG take on Australia last year at the Lamana Fight Nights. Our technique was different then. And when you went to Goroka, you know, they were training under the local coaches, now overseas. Did you see a change in their fighting style, anything like that?
Yes, definitely. You know, as I mentioned, Debbie Cowra, well, I only managed to stick around for Debbie's match and Tom Bogger's match. And you'll see, you know, in these highlights that their technique is totally different. As I mentioned, watching them fight at the NSI, at the National Boxing Championships, to now, they match the level of competition that their Queensland-based opponents brought to them. And, you know, Debbie, you know, utilized the ring. And it's a different technique. You know, boxing, as she mentioned, it's not just about, you know, wanting to knock out your opponent. It's about, you know, you have to be mentally fit as well as physically fit.
So Lorraine, the boxers, are they expected back soon?
Yes, well, just speaking to them, you know, over the weekend, actually, they have been there for 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks remaining because initially they were supposed to be there for a month. But they did mention that they are planning on extending their stay overseas for another month. But again, that all depends on the PNG Olympic Committee. So we'll have a follow-up on that, and we'll have to receive confirmation from the PNG Olympic Committee.
That's all we have for you on tonight's episode of Sports Scene. Thank you very much, Lorraine and Jeremy.
Thank you, Dion.
Thanks, Dion. Thanks for having us.
For more updates, go on to the MTV Online, go on Facebook. We also have the MTV app, which you can download off Play Store. Follow Scholar every Thursday nights on Hotspot. And for all the information and the latest updates on the Pacific Games, tune in on Wednesday evenings and join Lorraine on Road to Port Moresby 2015. That's it from us here on Sports Scene. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.